We're going to try that again. Round two. So, good evening. I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, March 24th meeting of the Nantucket School Committee. Before you have an agenda, if I may have an approval.
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful. I'd like to remind everyone that this meeting is being audio and video recorded, and we're also here hybrid on Zoom as well. I'd like to open the floor for public comment. Seeing none, we will close public comment and move into the superintendent's update.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to start with our MCAS testing. We have started MCAS testing as of today. 125 NIS fifth graders completed day one of ELA testing successfully, and they will be ready to tackle day two tomorrow. The high school also held their first day of ELA testing this morning for a little over 130 10th grade students. Our 9th, 11th, and 12th grade students had a delayed start where their day began at 10:20 a.m. And the reason why the high school does a delayed start for MCAS is because it really allows for a much better testing environment for the students where they have a less disruptive environment. The test is well proctored by multiple teachers to support testing. It's really just a better testing experience for them. The reason behind wrong note. Tomorrow, day two, we will also have a delayed start, and we will do the same thing for math and science MCAS testing. I just wanted to remind everyone, especially those at home, that students must take the MCAS even though it is no longer a requirement for graduation. There was still a lot of confusion around that, but students still are required to test. And we really want our high school students and families to know that the MCAS is tied to a very important scholarship opportunity, the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship, which awards students who score in the top 25% of the district on their exam full in-state tuition for up to 8 semesters at a Massachusetts public college or university. That's a pretty good deal. So we really want our students to have opportunities to do that. So test to have a specific score that would assist in potentially achieving the seal of biliteracy, which is also an important endeavor in that. So we really want our students to do their very best on the MCAS so that they can become eligible for either of those opportunities. We also have some changes at the Nantucket Elementary School and the Nantucket Intermediate School in dismissal procedures. Recently, the district communicated with parents and families about the need for some changes in dismissal procedures to ensure that our students are safe and our staff are also safe in the dismissal process. So I'm going to bring or ask Melissa Devitt, Assistant Superintendent of Academic Operations, to share a little bit of insight as she has been heavily involved in redesigning the procedures. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to take us back a little bit to when this all started. And if you remember in September, I know Danielle remembers very clearly, we had all of the problems with the e-bikes at the high school and the middle school and some at the intermediate school, but mostly at the upper schools. So that was our urgency, was getting those taken care of, making sure that the children were safe, that they were doing the right thing on their bikes, they were wearing their helmets. We were able to get a lot of support from the police department to make sure that that happened. And as that was happening, we noticed a lot of things. And thanks to Mr. Horton for pointing out that there was a really good idea to move the e-bikes over to the basketball court, and that really made the front of the middle school and high school a lot safer in the morning for the commuters and getting the buses through the bus lane. So that was really helpful to get that started. But as we were ongoing, we all know that the fall was pretty quiet, but then we got a lot of snow, which was really exciting for kids. And it made a lot of very large snow mounds for little children and ice and things that they want to play on, and it's really hard to tell them not to, especially when they probably have never seen snow on Nantucket. So everybody was really excited, but that really made for a mess in our parking lots and our parents driving in and out and our buses getting in and out because of the snowbanks. Nowhere for the snow to go. Couldn't see kids walking in and out of the crossways. So we really had to make sure that that was taken care of. The main concern that started this was that the parents were using the bus lane at the NIS and NES drop-off. So I had to stand at the end of the parking lot to make sure that people weren't pulling in there. But very quickly, as I was doing that, parents were telling me, you don't need to be standing here anymore, we'll listen to you, but you need to go to the other end into Bacchus Lane and see what's going on back there. So once I did that, it was very clear that we had to do some pretty quick changes, because kids were in the parking lot, they were crossing themselves, they were getting out, parents were blocking each other in, and they were using both lanes of the loop to get the kids out, and the kids were getting out on the driver's side, so they would be crossing the street and parents couldn't see them as they weaved in and out, and then the snowbanks really made that a little bit worse. So that was probably about January, February. So we decided that after February break, we were going to come together and change the arrival procedures. As soon as I put that arrival procedure out, I got a bunch of emails saying, you don't need to look at arrival, that's fine, I don't know what your problem is, can you look at dismissal? So then that opened up the door to dismissal, where I did take a look, and Officer Patterson came with me, and we both checked it out, and what was happening is that parents were parking right all over in the parking lot. Couldn't get out, parking people in, they were parking in the parking spot, or the handicapped parking spots, because there was nothing left. Our students with disabilities couldn't access their accommodations and get their equipment out because there were people unauthorized parked in those spots. So our idea to not make everybody extremely angry with us was to control the traffic in there. So we didn't change anything with the traffic pattern, but we make it only one lane now. So there's only one lane through the loop. If you want to get into the loop, you cannot get out of your car, which was what the issue was, is that parents were parking there, they were getting out of the car to go get their children. And then once they got their children, they were back in their car, but then they had blocked everybody around them in, so there was nowhere to go. That sounds very clear.
Sounds good.
It's working.
Yeah, it's working. So that was where we were at during dismissal. We have a big challenge with supervision, especially at dismissal time, because our teachers are already assigned duties, and our TAs and all of our staff. So I reached out to the Boys and Girls Club, and Fernando Jones was very gracious, and he is going to be helping us with our dismissal, and we no longer have to have teachers on dismissal duty. The Boys and Girls Club staff is going to come all the way over and walk those kids to the club. So that frees up our teachers that were doing that duty to be able to be present in the parking lots. We still have some concerns at the high school with using the bus lane. I also stood out on the bottom of that parking lot, and unless you're standing right there, people come in and block the buses in, and that becomes a problem. And then the kids also walking through there, but it has gotten much better than it was at the beginning of the year. Middle school is a little tricky right now because we had some issues, so they are really all hands on deck inside the school. So it was really nice to see that once a problem arose, that they were all very willing to help and make sure that eyes are on kids. So what's going to happen now, we're going to do an upcoming study on all 4 buildings and how we can make this safer for next year and have a really solid plan going into the school year. So on the 8th, 9th, and 10th of April, we'll have a study for the arrival and dismissal practices, and then in the summer we will work with principals and Mr. Clooney to come up with a solid plan for arrival and dismissal so everyone's safe, with the overall message just being that everybody is on duty when it comes to safety, so making sure the eyes are on kids. That's it.
If I may, through the chair, I just want to thank Ms. Devitt, because she's done a lot of work in this and has a real knack for understanding this very challenging time, both in the morning and in the afternoon. It is compounded by the fact that we do not have enough bus drivers. I'm going to just say that again. If we had more bus drivers, we would not have as many parents dropping off and picking up. We would be able to bus more of our students to and from school. I don't think it's going to get much better. We are struggling and experiencing, it's really nationwide, the same problem in trying to find bus drivers. So anyone out there who's interested, it's good money. It's please call me. And thank you very much, Lisa. I have one additional update. Our athletic department held its winter sports ceremony last week to celebrate all of our winter student athletes on a successful season. It was so great to see a really good turnout of students and their families to congratulate each other. As of last week, spring sports are underway, and I applaud our student athletes who are practicing and training in the less than spring-like conditions. It certainly feels cold today. That's pretty customary for March. So wishing our lacrosse, track and field, sailing, tennis, and baseball, and softball teams a great spring season. And that's it.
Thank you. We'll move into presentations and discussions of issues. Project 351 with Ms. Pellegrino and our grade 8 students.
So just a quick question, will we have the slides that we had set forward?
We should have them. 1 second.
You gotta hand those out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I did, Thursday, and she definitely got them because we communicated back and forth. Oh, look at that. Okay. Sure. I got them. Good. All right. Hi, I'm Pam Pellegrino, and it is my pleasure to be here this evening with my amazing students this year. I want to just take a moment for anyone who doesn't know what Project 351 is. For 16 years, I've worked and volunteered as, I love these guys, they're great. I have worked as the educator mentor for this organization that partners with the 351 public schools in Massachusetts. The onset of this 16 years ago really came from Carolyn Casey, who spearheaded a statewide community service initiative. What she saw through our public schools was that there were so many students who had an investment in service. Humble young people who may not be the star of, the biggest, brightest, or even the loudest person, but somehow throughout all of our schools reverberated a voice of middle school students that wanted to serve and wanted to learn how to lead. So 16 years ago, this really started in basements in different communities throughout the state, and has grown to be inclusive of Nantucket, which we're very, very happy about, as well as Martha's Vineyard, and we do now represent all 351 public schools throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So it is my pleasure this year, every year, students are selected. We do look for what we will call our quiet leaders, our leaders that do things in the community in a humble way, in a way that we know is steadfast. And the teachers get together and put together names, and collectively those teachers really look for those different qualities that resembles quiet, humility, and leadership. So this year we have Raffi and Ben, and I'd like to just tell you a little bit about them. Raffi is one of our amazing musicians. Quietly, she has shown her commitment through playing the violin and through orchestra, her commitment to wanting to grow that program. It's just part of really who she is, and it really reverberates in everything that she does. Her commitment to practicing, to showing up, and to really bringing as much excellence as she can to that music program in our schools, which is an incredibly growing program, which we value a lot. She's also very active in our community and in school theater, and we love that. And Ben, as you may or may not know, he has an incredible presence on stage again, through our school theater program and our community. In addition to that, he's a leader in our scouting world and our community that way. Again, showing signs of leadership that is steadfast, humble, and through quiet leadership. I had the honor of traveling with these two people to Faneuil Hall for what's called Launch Day, and I would like to introduce the two students, and they're going to tell you about their experience, as well as how they're going to bring that urge for service back to this island, which our island is known as a community that is based on its people that are committed to service, and how we are going to join with the state and also give back to our community as well. Ben and Rafi.
Hi everyone, my name is Ben Potter, and we're going to start talking about Launch Day. And so Launch Day was a day where all 351 towns and cities across the Commonwealth sent their ambassadors to learn about leadership and do a day of service in the city of Boston. And all of this was in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So Rafi and I were able to serve at La Colaborativa, where we were able to give food to community members in need, as well as make dental hygiene kits.
Hello, my name is Rafi, and this experience taught us the value and true meaning of service and what it means to be an ambassador. We met an amazing group of people who share the same values and passion for helping our communities.
So we are so excited to support not only our community of Nantucket, but also participate in a statewide service project collecting clothing for children throughout the Commonwealth.
Together with our fellow ambassadors across the state, we will be collecting quality donations to support Cradles and Crayons, which will be distributed across the communities across the state. In addition, clothing will be donated to island organizations that support our island youth.
So we are even more excited to collect quality clothing here on Nantucket. So we're going to be collecting at Cyrus Pierce Middle School from March 30th, next week Monday, through April 10th. So that's going to be a 2-week period. And
Simply bag your clean clothing donations and drop off at the CPS lobby.
yeah, so we also, something kind of, I think you guys did it last year, but so we're going to be doing a drive-by drop-off service. So every morning during the weekdays of when school's in session, during 7:30 to 7:45, we'll be in the back of CPS collecting clothes there as well. And addition to that, every single day will be available in the CPS vestibule. We will be collecting clothes.
Please join us in the CPS cafeteria Friday, April 10th for our community clothing sort, where we package the donations for delivery. Keep in mind, many hands make light work.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good job.
Do we have any questions for, even though you all ran away already? Any questions?
No,
Please?
just the usual. This is outstandingly good work. I appreciate very specifically the quiet, humble leadership.
Yes, Esmeralda?
I have no questions. I echo Liz's comments.
The clothes that are deposited on Nantucket, do they stay on Nantucket or go into a statewide mix?
So the answer is both and. So we have the sort day, where we will sort clothing first of all for quality. And Cradles to Crayons takes some of that clothing, and then clothing is also going to be vetted through our school nurses as well as the Family Resource Center. So what we're doing is distributing that. There's some items that, for example, things that say Nantucket Whalers, Nantucket specific clothing that is donated, and there's always a lot of it, and that clothing can't go to Cradles to Crayons. Because it's being distributed throughout the state. So especially those items which are so valuable to our community, families love to get those or use them through the Resource Center. So it's a both and.
If I may, through the Vice Chair, can you remind us of the clothing sort date and the time?
Yes. Sorry, Friday, April 10th. It is after school until we finish. And that also backs up to just a fun little plug for Bingo Night, which is a fundraiser for Cyrus Pierce Middle School. So anybody who comes and does the fun sorting can then just go right on over and play bingo for a good cause.
So you're taking volunteers for
The sort,
sorting?
yeah,
Okay.
it's quite a fun evening. The clothing is put basically on all the tables and dumped, and then there is designated signs that will basically direct the volunteers, as well as Ben and Rafi. They'll give a big direction on how to sort. It basically mimics what happens at Cradles to Crayons, and that clothing is sorted for quality. No stains, rips, or tears, and it is sorted out. Shoes are bound together, and it's put into bags. And then through the graciousness of people with trucks, Mr. Horton last year, all those are then put into a truck. The ones that we're keeping here on island have been stored in our vestibule, and the ones that are going off island, we meet for the Highline Ferry, which are gracious enough to volunteer carts for us. We then take that off island where we meet the Cradles to Crayons bus. Obviously that's the next morning, and that's loaded in there, and then turn around and come back to the island. All thanks to the generosity of Highline supporting this organization as well.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh, Matt.
Yes. I just want to add about sizing. So we are taking all sizes because Cradles to Crayons helps kids through high school, and high school is where adult sizes. But there is a big need this year for toddler and infant clothing. So as much as that helps, but we are taking all sizes.
Thank you for that. I commend you both for your hard work and dedication and how eloquently you expressed yourselves up here. It's not easy standing before a room of folks, but it sounds like you do that all the time. So great job and thank you. Moving to the next portion of our agenda, we'll go to central registration review with our central registrar, Sarah Kirk.
Hear me? Is that all good? That is a tough act to follow. My goodness, how amazing are they? What an amazing program. I am Sarah Kirk, the district registrar here at Nantucket Public Schools. And I will not be talking, might not be talking at all. Dare I? Thank you. I will communicate through you. Thank you. I will not be reviewing at length the experience that families have when they go through central registration. I wanted to focus specifically for this presentation on some changes from the last 2 times that I have presented to school committee. I will touch just a little bit to refresh memories about what it is central registration does, but we have had some significant changes over the last couple of years, and I wanted to allow some time for that. Next slide, please. So just to recap, in previous years I have mentioned this, so when I am sharing information about the registration process, this is very different from the enrollment numbers that you will see. So the registrations that I tend to live in 2 school years completely. So much of the registration takes place
about half of our registrations take place actually the school year before. So right now I am in the middle of kindergarten registration for September. I'm going to roll right into pre-K registration in May. Those appointments have opened up and are being scheduled presently. I'm almost done with our rising grade 9 registrations from the Nantucket New School. And of course we have early bird for the other grades opening in late spring, and registration will pause for a couple months in the summer and resume in August. And at that point we are talking about the current school year and registrations that will turn into enrollments generally within the same week. Okay. And the goals of registration, generally the families are coming through my office. It's just one appointment for the whole family. So often we're seeing families with multiple children, and they may be registering kids at 3 or 4 different schools, and it's much easier for the families to have one experience instead of trying to replicate this and maybe having a different experience at each school, because simply by nature their welcome meeting with the school counselor or school principal will be a little different, simply because it's going to look very different when you welcome an elementary school student than when you welcome a high school student. The registration appointments are, for me, they are given in English and Spanish. However, we can always find an interpreter for our families that are completing registration in their language, their preferred language. Similarly, we also meet families where they are. So with the our registration forms are online. Many of our families may not have the ability or the familiarity with the level of tech that we do in the educational world to complete these forms. And especially when we're going through these forms, it's important to understand, Stephanie, skip to the next page, thank you, that context is everything. So one of the things that I do focus on as we go through the registration process is simply being clear about what this is and what it isn't also, because enrollment is really where they're going to have the fun, where they're going to get the tour, where they're going to learn more about their specific school. But it's important to understand why we may be asking certain questions. For example, the language survey that we have currently implemented, it is a requirement for next school year. We implemented it early at our district. Asks a lot about potentially education from another country and what the educational background has looked like. But it's on a language form. Similarly, slightly different, it is on our health information page. We have a medication authorization for the school nurse's office. Without context, that might be a surprise for some families that schools administer over-the-counter medication. So being able to explain these things conversationally, I think has really helped families feel much more welcome and not left with questions. I also like to share with families information that is pretty general and basic across the district, so that when counselors meet with them, they are able to focus on those school-specific subjects, the experience your child will have, what you as a parent will experience, the daily routine, the schedule changes, how tough conversations are handled. That all is something that the counselors could speak to much more in depth. They don't necessarily need to focus on reporting attendances and school hours in the school calendar. So I'm more than happy to go through all that. So some changes since the last time I presented, and I want to be careful on the first one because I realized it was a little ambiguous when I put it in. Starting in January of 2025, registration appointments entered through the community school and ECC entrance. So door 45, it's the one that's right before the elementary school. Previously, appointments would check in at the elementary school or the special education office. All of these offices are wonderful, welcoming staff who are all multilingual, would greet families and sign them into our security software. What's nice in particular about being at the ECC, and I'll speak from personal experience with this, is when you are a parent of a toddler and by some miracle you make it out of the house early, too early that you are now going to entertain your toddler while you're waiting for your appointment to start, it's a particularly friendly space that allows for families to come relax and also to understand the amazing resources that are available through that organization. What is also new is Raptor scanning for all adult photo IDs. It's a little bit of a captive audience. When they come to registration, everyone is checking in to be assigned to my office and be with me, and I am with them the entirety of the time during their appointment. This has been particularly helpful in capturing a lot of new parents all at once. And we saw last year in our trial of batch printing for the Kindergarten Getting to Know You Day that it really helped with large-scale events. So the Getting to Know You Day, we welcome about 20 children in with their families, and being able to print those guest passes in advance when possible was super helpful. It also helped prevent bottlenecks for guests who hadn't previously been in. For example, sometimes at registration one parent comes, the other does not. If they are new, they would be able to go through a regular scan-in process, but everyone else was printed in advance. This was so successful, we are going to replicate it this year, and plans are already underway. And the last point on the slide is more just a shout out to the district for the great work in hiring staff over the last couple of years in our offices that can help accommodate families with language differences, because I know it means so much to our families to have that soft handoff to the office or to the community school to someone that can greet them and meet them and answer their questions in their preferred language without needing to ask. It was so meaningful to our families. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so some recent trends. I've put up the last 2 full school years and this school year thus far for the registration appointments to look at some of the changes we see over time. A couple words of note. Pre-K, you might be surprised in seeing that the enrollment records that you know of from March versus the number of registrations. In the 2024-2025 school year, we did things a little differently for transition classrooms, so students going through the evaluation process but not necessarily having been determined, so that's why that number is a little bit higher. That doesn't necessarily mean enrollment. And then, of course, this year's kindergarten class is just small, and we knew it would be, and that will probably follow them throughout their educational career. We have a couple of small classes and inversely a couple of pretty large classes. One just graduated and 2 more at the high school. So our current grade 11 and 12 are pretty large as well. Definitely exciting. And unfortunately, from some changes recently, in our political climate, we've really felt that we see that there are fewer immigrant student registrations, and we feel that from the conversations that we are having with the families. So often, I get calls, sometimes far in advance, from when families do actually travel with their child and bring them here with the intention of registering and enrolling, and it's an ongoing process that takes so long, and currently we are seeing that there is not the same number of registrations and enrollments happening for our students coming from El Salvador. It's been pretty consistent for the Dominican Republic and for Jamaica, considerably less from Brazil. And please forgive me for lumping everyone else into the Americas together, but I can't accommodate I didn't want to accommodate with, visually, it would get kind of crowded, if you will. So please forgive me there. But I think it's a very interesting trend to understand. What was also interesting with this is to understand this year there was a significant hurricane that hit Jamaica, and during that time we had probably about 15 potential students worth of families reach out, inquiring under great stress, wondering what the registration to enrollment process could look like. Since then, only one has moved, registered, and enrolled. I think it's just worth mentioning, though, that part of the registration process includes guidance. It doesn't necessarily get you to the end goal, because sometimes plans don't come to fruition right away or even in a couple of months. With the immigrant process, often these families have been working towards this goal for years, sometimes even generations. So it can certainly be complicated. Okay. Something else we are seeing new this particular school year is a large rising grade 9 group from the Nantucket New School. They will be starting school with us in September. If I can make one correction, it is 15 students from the new school that will be registering, not 16. There is a 16th. They're not coming from the new school. Just a little bit confusing there. We are trying something new with this particular group of students. They are a unique group in that these families are well established on island, and so a lot of the resources that I would normally be sharing at the registration appointment, they may not necessarily make use of. Of course, the public school transition will be big, but the island resource factor they might very well be familiar with, or might be someone that I'm passing a family off to in another, perhaps in like a parent's line of work, for example. But we are, this year, registration appointments for Rising Grade 9 are taking place at the Nantucket High School. So families are checking in at the NHS office. Mindy and her team have kindly offered their space for me. Please forgive. And so they will complete registration with me, and they will walk across the hall where they then have their course request meeting with their school counselor. We've heard rave feedback from our parents that have had a traditional registration appointment of coming, meeting with me, registering, and then having a separate appointment on a separate day for course requests. That this is the superior way to go. It's hard to say if that could be replicated well with other appointments at other ages and grade levels in schools. It becomes a lot of moving pieces, but I'm happy to say that I think this group will have ended up proven to be the right thing to do. Okay, the next one. The next slide talks a little bit about formalized changes, although I haven't been doing these things differently in practice. So my office is always open for families in need. I like to say that ultimately if a family needs more help than perhaps direction or someone sitting with them and being really patient and walking them through kind of a tedious process, I love to connect them with their school counselor and maybe the school social worker, because those are the more appropriate people to guide families that may need to take advantage of additional resources. But I am happy to say right now families can set up an appointment without needing to call, and in a language of their preference, they may set up this appointment I'm a food referral partner for Food First, so working with some local organizations, connecting families, food insecure families, with food-related resources on island. Annual verification and Aspen help. In years past, we have done all sorts of events related to verification and handing out Chromebooks or tech help for families. And I found that a lot of families kept coming back to me in particular for help, and I'm happy to say, please come on in, we'll sit down at my table, you can use my computer, I can walk you through these forms, especially when we tweak language on a permission form. It's important to be able to explain why, and it's been really helpful for those families. They're so grateful to have the opportunity to just ask, like, can you let me know what the change is about, right? Providing context can be super informative for families. And lastly, caregiver affidavit notarization. Nantucket Public Schools does not provide legal advice. However, we do very strongly encourage emergency family planning to all families. Mostly this looks like if your parents have to travel unexpectedly for a family emergency and you might be staying with a trusted family friend or family member who lives on island, we like to make sure that we have appropriate documentation on file. So a new appointment type that I am offering right now is simply notarization of those documents. Families, I put caregiver affidavit notarization simply because that is the document that we see most commonly. There's also, I believe it's a temporary guardianship document. Families can write a letter. We've seen power of attorney. It looks like a lot of different options, but the important thing to stress here is, especially with our current political climate, we understand that many families are very uncomfortable and scared, and that we as a school stress knowing what your emergency plan is as a family, but also that communicating that, especially to our youngest students, is really challenging. So being able to sit at the table with a parent and walk them through kind of like what things might look like from the school side and what we need, and also not requiring something, but simply saying like, hey, here is, for example, Mass Legal Helps has a pre-made packet. It talks about the types of conversations you should have with your significant other and how you can approach those conversations and what decisions are made with your kids. It has sample documents. It has documents filled out with examples, not just the blank document itself, and there's multiple kinds. And so if families want to come to a place and have those documents notarized and file them immediately with the front office, they can. Next slide, please, Stephanie. Shameless plug for Free School Meals Update. I am the program manager for the Free and Reduced Meals program here at Nantucket Public Schools. We are currently in year 3 of a 4-year cycle of the community eligibility provision. We still run the programming in the background because it affects the reimbursement right for the district and that the state gets from the federal government, USDA. I won't go too much into detail other than it's constant work behind the scenes. And we will be doing our April report for our final year next year. There's a small chance we'll be called upon to renew early simply because when Massachusetts rolled out this program, many districts were asked to apply, more voluntold to apply, if you will. And therefore, their renewal will come due many districts all at once, and they don't want to be doing that all at the same time. So we will see what comes of that. But year 3 of 4, plugging along. And we also have I Put Quiet campaign for the Fill the SNAP Gap. There is some information on our website about this. It's, again, just a landing page for some resources for families on island that may be experiencing some food insecurity, but also understanding that help in one area usually means help in another. So for example, they can use their direct certification letter for free and reduced meals. Again, that notice at the federal level that they've been pre-qualified, whether or not they're required to pay for school meals, they qualify at the federal level for those programs. They can use that to apply for reduced electricity and internet costs through National Grid and Comcast respectively. We understand as educators, as parents, as involved community members with children, that any money that's not going directly to your children is now going somewhere else simply frees up money to go back to your children. So this is great, and I am happy to help families along the way with that. Next slide, please. And then just a couple of other things. I've been up to Community and Agriculture Resilience Audit Tool. I am one of the advisory board members. Very kindly was invited to work with the town on the environmental justice plan and connect them with additional trusted community and staff members representing different members of our community. I am really hoping we will get a vaccine clinic here in the fall. Fingers crossed if that's just to staff, just for students, or if it's something general, but I really think that Nantucket Public Schools could make use of our spaces and some resources, and Stop and Shop is a really amazing mobile vaccine clinic, and they can do everything from flu shots to some very specific vaccines, which is pretty cool. And also I've been working with Nourish Nantucket, one of our wonderful local nonprofits focusing on supporting families experiencing food insecurity. This is my office if you haven't been in it. It's really nice.
Thank you, Sarah. Vince, any questions?
Sure. So I don't want this question to come across badly because all the work you're doing is outstanding and excellent. This is kind of a devil's advocate type question. So I'm just curious if there's any legal jeopardy for being a notary and keeping legal documents. And I ask this very specifically to know if you need more legal support.
Great question. So I am a public notary. There are several of us hanging out at the district, and we are public notaries just like you would find at the bank, just like you'd find downtown. And as a notary, I can notarize things in a school capacity, but also I can notarize them for friends and family or random people, I mean, downtown, right? The important thing here is we are not giving legal advice. I understand that sitting at a table saying, like, as a school, as an educational support personnel, as an admin assistant at the school, this is the kind of document we would want should you choose to travel off island without your child. I can notarize it if you want, but ultimately it is not requiring the family to specifically provide that document. It's simply saying, you need a plan. For you, it would be wise to have a legal plan, a notarized plan. We are an entity where your child is 6 hours a day. And more often than not, what we're seeing from the news is that if parents are, for example, detained by Immigration and Customs, that it might be during the child's school day, and that they might find out about this simply when pickup comes and there is no pickup. So what do we do then? It's a natural place for parents to provide this sort of documentation. They leave with the originals, we keep copies, we recommend this anyway, simply because a plan is what's important, but it's not I want to stress, we are not providing legal advice. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it does, thank you.
If I may, through the Vice Chair, we have recently gone through a Know Your Rights webinar. It's an update since the last time a Know Your Rights webinar happened last year around this time. We have received word that schools can, in fact, not require, but certainly collect any sort of caregiver affidavit and have that on hand. But obviously, as Sarah has been very clear, we are not giving legal advice in any way. However, we are able to hold on to caregiver affidavits, which is important, especially if we have any information on that.
Yeah, through the Vice Chair, I don't have any issue with that. I'm thrilled to hear it, and I was just curious if there's any further support she might benefit from, and that's kind of where I was going with that.
From my perspective, I don't necessarily know from an educational place if I personally need support from the district. I think it does speak to the greater community need of, we are a community of immigrants, and those immigrants have rights and they need their legal help. It's not the school. Simply understanding where they are and meeting them where they are is important. So that's all I would have to say on that.
100% agree.
Thank you. Esmeralda, any questions?
No questions. Actually, sorry, I'm gathering my thoughts. Can you come back to me, please?
Of course, yes. Dr. Lepre?
And that is central registration on steroids.
Yes.
I'm impressed with the scope that you apparently have got yourself involved in, but
I have done it to
I
myself.
really give you kudos, because I think that this serves the school community and our broader community.
Thank you so
Where
much.
there are significant needs.
Thank you so much.
Ready? Okay.
Back to the caregiver affidavit notice.
Of course.
Notification forms. Are those available in your office?
They're available in my office, but like I mentioned, I think it's Mass Legal Help. It's just a organization that helps families get their plans together. They had a beautiful packet pre-prepared. It's not that we require that particular one. It just came pre-translated with many options and a really family-friendly explanation.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. I've gone through your office, so I know that personally the work that you do, and you made it so smooth. Being a first-time parent going through that process, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
But kind of piggybacking off of Vince's overall question, not just around the legal help, but knowing that your office does so much, and you're an office of how many? Exactly, one. So what kind of additional support could you use in your office?
I don't know. I love my job and I love what I've made it. I am the first person to fill this particular role, and I love to see where it's going. When it comes to the needs for me, I, again, would pass it off to say, like, what are the needs of the district? What are the needs of the schools, right? I work with some really amazing people on the team. Generally, it's the counselors. A lot of the times it's front offices. Usually it's the translators, interpreters. And it's all a big web. And because so many families that I register have multiple children in multiple schools, I think, usually what I say is like, what do I need? I need patience. right? Some understanding that there's a lot of kind of balls in the air as we juggle and try to get these kids into school, and that the most seamless process possible for the family might look different for each child. For example, I know, we just hit the end of a trimester and the start of a trimester, and we specifically wait to start some kids at the beginning of a trimester. That's going to be a more friendly experience for them, right? But that's just one example of the many ways and the thought that goes into the registration to enrollment pipeline, if you will. But for me, yeah, I would say patience.
Well, you're doing a great job, so
Thank you
thank
so
you very
much.
much. Any more questions? Come.
If I may, just wanted to thank Sarah. She has made central registration and the process so simple, welcoming, and really made the office and the role her own. And I'm very thankful since the beginning. So
Thank you. Thank you.
oh boy, give some seconds.
Oh, it's a 45. Pause for the countdown. Happy New Year. Okay. We'll move into policy updates. We have, I'm going to toss it to you.
Sure. All right, so the policy subcommittee meeting happened a few weeks ago, and there are some policy updates in the E category that we wanted to bring to the committee. So I'll go through each one and just I'm not going to go through and read everything. I just am going to explain what the title is and then what the recommendation is from the policy subcommittee. So starting with the first one, EFBA. This is School Food and Nutrition Meal Modifications. This is a new policy that MASC has recommended, and it was reviewed by the committee, and so we will bring it to vote on the 14th. The changes and any new information included is in blue. So the next policy is EFE, and that is Civil Rights Complaint Policy for Child Nutrition Programs. Again, this is a review. This policy would be adopted on 4/14, and again, you can make sure you read through that. Policy EHB. Okay. I do have one small change to make to policy EHB, as it was caught at a late date before it was printed. The first paragraph says, at the end, the second sentence is, the custodian of public records of the district is Katie Bedell. We would like to remove the name of the individual. Those don't come into policies. We did not see this as we were going through, so I'm glad to have had the assistance of someone who noticed it. So we're going to change that to the custodian of the public records of the district is the executive assistant to the superintendent. And then the rest of it remains the same. There's also a tiny grammatical error that we can fix in the last sentence, just missing an A. So committee will be given a district email address. So we will make those changes, and you'll see this again on April 14th. Moving to the next one, collection of money for food services. This is not an MASC policy, and it will be removed. So that will go to vote again on the 14th. And then the next one, same situation, collection, this is EFDA rules and procedures. And this is a collection of money for food services. This is not a mask policy and will be removed on the 14th. The vote will be 14th. Policy EGAD, rules and procedures. This was reviewed as well. It should be removed. It's not a mask policy, so it will go to vote on the 14th. This is copyright compliance, rules and procedures, or guidelines for classroom copying with respect to books and periodicals. So we're going to remove that. And that is it. So if there are any questions from the committee around any specifics in the policy, happy to explain to the best of my ability. No? Okay.
Questions?
Okay, super.
Call for the vote. So we will move into committee discussions and votes to be taken. Vote to recommend $46,174,847 for the FY '27 Nantucket Education Public Appropriation Article 8 of the 2026 Annual Town Meeting of Taxpayers. The public school total budget appropriation is recommended at $45,574,847. 37 million, it is hard for me to talk in millions, by the way. $37,497,172 for payroll and $8,077,675 for operating expenses, and an additional $600,000 in community school appropriation for payroll, and to authorize use of school department accounts as listed. Motion.
Move approval.
Thank you. So- Who moved 2 seconds? Sorry.
moved.
I'm like, what are you guys doing? Move. Second. There we go. All in favor? There we go.
And well done, Martha.
Congratulations, Martin. Vote to approve the donation from J. Brown Builders for $500 to the Nantucket High School gift account for the music department Disney field trip.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Vote to approve the donation from MIT Club of Cape Cod for $600 to the Nantucket High School gift account to be used towards STEM.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Vote to approve the donation from Island Lumber for $1,500 to the Nantucket High School gift account to be used for the woodshop program.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Vote to approve the donation from E&A Divine for $10,000 to the Nantucket High School gift account to be used for the music department.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Vote to approve the donation from Network for Good for $300 to the Nantucket High School student activity account for student council.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Vote to approve the donation from Network for Good for $150 to the Nantucket High School student activity account for student council.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor? Vote to approve the donation from the Jamie Topham Scholarship Fund to Nantucket High School Student Activity Fund for Student Council Mental Health Awareness Project.
Move approval.
All in favor?
Aye.
Vote to approve transfers and invoices.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we are going to skip our student council representatives report for this meeting. And we'll move into subcommittee/work group report.
Yes, so, I will defer to the Vice Chair. We have been working through negotiations with the teachers' union. It is progressing nicely, and I would like to very much thank the teachers' union and the negotiating team on both sides. This has been as smooth as it could be, and thank you.
I couldn't agree more. It's been a very smooth process, so it's nice when we put the kids first. So very much appreciate that. Esmeralda? Wonderful. So the agenda for the next meeting.
Yes. Our next meeting is actually a workshop retreat, and we will be looking at our school committee goals, doing a mid-year review on that, our school committee self-evaluation, and then I will give you a mid-year review on my goals. And that's what we do.
Wonderful. All right. If I could have, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.